Welcome to the Inspiring Leadership Podcast, where we seek to elevate your leadership and transform your workplace. My name is Dominic Seal. I'm delighted to be the host of this show. With my team at eqstrategist, we seek to bring you a dose of healthy inspiration and practical insights into how to enhance team performance, cultivate resilience, foster collaboration, and shape culture. Welcome to this next episode of Inspiring Leadership, where we bring forward the stories of heroes each and every day who live their life to the fullest, who distinguish themselves through their mindset and through their competencies. And, one of our key beliefs at EQ Strategist is to always stand on the shoulders of giants, model others who have come here before you. And I absolutely love this podcast because, firstly, from a selfish standpoint, I get to learn so much from it, and yet very passionate and committed to bringing even more of the stories of extraordinary people that we come across. Today, my podcast host is the amazing Marija Petrovska. Maria's bio is she's an avid adventurer with a passion for exploration and travel. She spent a decade navigating the worlds of construction and property. Beginning her journey in design, she seamlessly transitioned into construction and then property, honing her expertise along the way. With a master's in corporate real estate and a talent for strategy and partnerships, Maria now channels her diverse background into the travel industry, blending her love for exploration with a proven ability to turn ideas into impactful solutions. Her journey reflects the passion and dedication to innovation and adventure, showcasing her unique blend of skills and her ability to go beyond the blueprint with every new opportunity that she embraces. In this talk, I found it incredibly inspiring to learn about a human being that always serves with a heart. I love her message about going beyond the blueprint, about taking risks in life, and the mindset that goes along with it. Her amazing journey of how do you work with possibly glass ceilings in the world of construction and engineering for someone who's younger and for someone who is perhaps some may consider her gender to be a limitation, and yet someone who has been able to find tremendous opportunities from that, someone who made the successful navigation into event management. And we speak about emotional intelligence and relationships and dealing with rejections and succeeding in the world of sales and business development, to making those very critical decisions in her life, including investing in property and building her wealth as she goes, and also living life in her own terms. I know you take a lot of it. Please enjoy this inspiring podcast with the sensational Marija Petrovska.
So impressed with your speech that I absolutely beelined for you the moment you finished speaking. I was like, I need to talk to him. There were so many synergies that I was like, I have to talk to him.
Absolutely. I just felt an instant connection with you. It was a WEDEC, just for a wonderful audience. WEDEC stands for Women in Design and Construction. And it was going back to my archives. It was 2019, Maria. So it's a good, and about 5 years, definitely the year before COVID. And since then, we've collaborated on a few opportunities, had wonderful coffee conversations, and you've always struck me as this amazing human being with the mindset and the energy and the emotional intelligence and the smarts that I always wish I used to have when I was your age. Not wanting to be patronizing, but you really stood out with your presence, and just recently following your journey vicariously, seeing you go from the person who organizes these amazing functions. I think we collaborated subsequently on a Cornet event. So you WEDEC and then Cornet, right?
Yes.
And what was Cornet about again, Maria? Tell us a little bit about Cornet.
So Cornet's all about, corporate real estate, and we collaborated on a breakfast young leaders event where we got you to speak on the importance of emotional intelligence. That was right before COVID. I remember it was at the executive center right before we all got told we have to work from home.
Just recently, just looking at you in awe. Now you're a speaker and out on stage with the Cornet event yourself on the, what was it, Red Talk or something? What was it called?
Yes, so Cornet had their annual conference, and it was in Melbourne this time around. So they got me to speak as part of the Red Talks, which is focused on young leaders sharing their ideas. And it was quite interesting. It was sort of coming a full circle for me because I got involved with Cornet, about 7 or so years ago, and I was part of the Young Leaders Committee. And that's when we sort of like brought in the Red Talks and given young leaders a space and a platform to express their ideas, to voice sort of what is happening in the industry and what change they would like to see. So coming a full circle to me actually speaking at the Red Talks, that was, it was a surreal experience. Very, very grateful for that.
Oh man, I literally had tears in my eyes when I found out that you were speaking. I always felt like the world could do even more with a wonderful story that's Marija Petrovska, this extraordinary human being. And to see you take center stage and do a TED talk. How many people were in that show, in that event?
There was about 250 to 300 CRE professionals. So yeah, a little bit nerve-wracking, but also, these are people that I've met through my career. So there was a sense of familiarity, but as well, a little bit of nerves when I got on stage. But the moment I started speaking, it all dissipated, like it all disappeared. So yeah, it just flowed on. I'm definitely very grateful that I did it. It was out of my comfort zone for an introvert like me to get up on stage and speak publicly. It was out of my comfort zone, but that's my new outlook on life, to take more risks and to step out of, comfort zone. So definitely starting off on the right track.
What has always stood out for me is your mindset, but mindset is one. Secondly, is also the skills, right? The emotional intelligence, your active listening, your communication, your confidence, your ability to deal with adversity has always been things that really stood out for me. I just want to thank you. Thank you for being an inspiration in my life.
No, thank you. And thank you for the kind words. It's, compliments, sometimes they're great, but oftentimes we don't really know how to receive them really well. So thank you for the kind words. It does really means a lot.
Pleasure. Maria, just for the benefit of our wonderful audience here today, would you mind giving us a bit of your backstory in your own words?
Yes, absolutely. I mean, I'll touch on both sides of things. I guess I'll touch on a little bit on personal as well as professional. So I was born and raised in Southeast Europe. I was born and raised in Macedonia. And we moved to Australia when I was 14 years old. Now, unfortunately, the move happened because of sad circumstances. My dad passed away overseas, and Mum naturally wanted to be with her family, and that we're all living in Sydney. So at 14, I got told to pack my little suitcase, and off we came to Australia, a place I'd never known. I did not really speak a word of English, so
really?
I was learning German overseas. So I had I had a very limited understanding of English with, songs and movies and everything that you're exposed to at that time, but nowhere near to be proficient to hold a conversation aside from hello and how are you. So I had about 6 weeks to pick up the language, sit an English exam, and be admitted into a high school.
No way.
It was an interesting period. I am not going to lie. I don't know how it happened, how we managed, but lo and behold, off I went to high school. The initial couple of months, the initial first year was a bit of a whirlwind. I managed it somehow, and then from then on, it just got easier. But
where was school?
Terms of, I went to Westfield Sports High School. Yeah.
Sorry,
Westfield Sports High School.
Oh, Westfield Sports High School, right? Okay.
Yes, so it's predominantly a sports high school, and obviously it's a mixture of sport students and local students. I had the option to enter for sport. I did for a little bit, but then I reverted back to my local status. It just got too much to manage with all the time, with the limited time that you have, especially as a student. You've got homework, you've got everything. So I was like, no, let's just boundaries. Learn to set boundaries from a very early age.
Right. Wow.
um, and then post that, didn't know what I wanted to study. Initially, I know, very strange, I wanted to join the Defence Force. So my dad served
Really?
in the Croatian Navy, well, back in the Yugoslavia days overseas, but
Right.
mum wouldn't have it. So then I was tossing and turning. I'm like, what will I do? What am I going to study? I can't do what I want to do. So then, lo and behold, I entered design and architecture. So I studied
Mm,
that, graduated, started working in the design field with a few different companies. And after about 3 years, I realized, you know what, I actually want to be part of more than just the initial stage. I want to see these projects from start to completion. So make the transition over into construction. And
right.
I was very fortunate to work for a company that was willing to take me on that journey. So the first place I worked at was Intric, and I've got a lot of love and respect for those guys. They really took me under their wing. So initially, I started as the design and graphic coordinator, helping out a lot on a lot of marketing
Mm,
aspects, putting all the submissions together, working really closely with all the teams, putting events together for them as well. We had an annual golf day, which they were really well known about. So first exposure into events came that way.
okay.
And from working on submissions for quite a bit of time, you get to meet a lot of the clients. I used to attend a lot of the initial first site visits with our estimators, got to meet a lot of our clients, and by default became their client relationship manager.
Wow.
So yeah, it's amazing how life works, and you get an opportunity and you grasp it, I guess. You take it with
Absolutely.
both hands and go with it. So from their client relationship manager, eventually it rolled into becoming their New South Wales business development manager. But at that point, I got headhunted by another company called Painter Dixon. And
Okay.
what Painter Dixon wanted to do, they wanted to marry up my two skills, so my design side as well as my client relations, and they wanted me to look after their hospitality projects. So basically, look at the assets their clients had and how to revitalize them, how to master plan them, and look at expanding their clientele, bettering their services, bettering their space, all these different things. And me being me, and again, I was quite fortunate that I had a great manager that took me under his wing and basically went listened to some of the ideas that I had. So what
Right.
we decided is we took it a step further and
Mm,
started to look at residual spaces that these
right.
clients had, that these hospitality clients had, and did all these desktop studies and looked at ways to turn these vacant blocks of land into an extra asset or an income stream for them. So entering my almost assistant development manager era. Um, from then on, I got asked to revitalize their remedial sector at Painter
Mm,
Dixon. So off I joined that team, and we did really well. Got them introduced into the commercial space instead of them just focusing on residential. We doubled profits. And then I got headhunted by another company.
oh my goodness.
So it's almost like every 3 years I had something else come up. Um, and the last place that I worked at, I was basically their New South Wales head of business development, and then subsequently their associate for strategy and partnerships. And it was all about, again, like revitalizing the business, looking at what they're doing, how we can improve, looking at larger scale projects or looking at diversifying into different sectors. So all of that on strategy and partnerships. In between all of that, I was part of a couple of different external bodies, so Cornet, Tree of Knowledge. I had my own women in property event called Connector. So there was quite a lot of turning cogs, and I think for a decade I worked really hard on building this career and establishing a title. And I got to the point where a month before my 30th birthday, I decided, I'm like, I've worked too hard for too long.
Oh
Time to
my.
retire.
You've done more lifetimes in
Yes.
10 years, and most people have in their entire career.
Exactly.
My
So had
goodness.
my short stint of retirement for 18 months.
Retirement at
Traveled.
30. Oh
Yeah,
my
well,
goodness.
yeah.
I just turned 60.
Go big or go home.
I've just turned 60. I've still got, at least a good 30-year vision ahead of me. Universe willing and the energy willing, but great job, my goodness. And tell us a little bit more about that. What's life been since retirement?
Well, it was amazing. So I spent, 18 months just traveling around, sailing, freediving, doing all these, exciting things, rock climbing, canyoning, all the adventure stuff, all the things I didn't have time to do when I was working full time. And in the middle of one of my travels, a friend of mine contacted me and said, well, I was up on Cradle Mountain in Tasmania. I was hiking Cradle Mountain, and a friend of mine reached out and said, hey, Flight Centre Travel Group are hiring. You should apply. You'd be perfect for this role. And I went, no, no, the corporate life is behind me. I'm happy now. I'm doing my own thing. And he said, no, they've got great, flexibility packs, great travel packs for their employees as well. You should really give it a go. You should really test it out. Now, what do I have to lose? I mean, if it doesn't work out, if I don't feel the connection, I can always just bow out. So I applied for it. I had my interview up on Cradle Mountain in my camper van. Somehow they loved me. and I started working for them about not even a full month later. I think it was only about a couple or so weeks later I started working for them, and I've been with Flight Centre Travel Group for about just a little over a year now. And it's been amazing. So I look
Oh
after
my
corporate clients
goodness.
now, but still,
Wow.
towing that line between flexibility and working.
You're amazing. With my Asian background, many people will be like, man, this gal, what a great sense of adventure and can do. And someone who came from seemingly a technical background and then into sales and business development in the space. And that's almost like a career change altogether. And then retiring at 30 and then coming back and continuing to do what you love. I suppose marrying your role at Flight Centre with your love of innovation and travel and adventure. How's that been for you?
It's been amazing. I do love the team. They are extremely accommodating, extremely understanding. For during my retirement, as I like to call it, I set out to get my master's in corporate real estate. Don't ask me why. I don't know why. I
You don't
think
know why?
I don't know why.
And that's
I
again
think
very counter Asian. When we do stuff, we gotta have an objective. We do masters because we're gonna go ahead in life and get a better job and a promotion. And you're like, I don't know why, I just did a master's.
to be honest, I think because I went from so like almost working insane hours in a week to not doing anything to really paring it back, it almost felt like I was missing an extra challenge in life. Like the 18 months of traveling, that was phenomenal. It was amazing. And I had different other challenges in between, learning to sail and all these different things. But I need something to keep my brain occupied. So through Cornet, I commenced my master in corporate real estate. And that overlapped with starting up Flight Centre Travel Group. And obviously I explained to them, you guys, I'm completing my master's at this point in time. I know it doesn't really relate to what I'm doing here, what my role is at Flight Centre Travel Group. However, I would like to complete it. And they were completely understanding. They basically went, yep, whenever you need to have lectures, you let us know, you just take the time off. So they've been really accommodating and really understanding, but also they appreciate the different skill set that comes from these various different roles that I've had. And they've been phenomenal. Honestly, I've got only good things to say about all of my employers, all of the people I've met through my life. They've all had positive influences on me, and I think that's part of how I've been shaped to be the person that I am today. That's definitely part of it.
Extraordinary. There's so much, just in that 5-minute intro about yourself and your backstory that I want to unpack. And I'm just struggling to think about where I should start because, one of the things that really strikes me is you've always seemed to live your life. You're very still not wanting to be patronizing, tender life in your own terms, in your own terms. So you decided you went into design and you then moved into business development and relationship management and all that great stuff. Did you always anticipate when you started, I don't know, at your university studies to prepare yourself into design and architecture and all that? Did you perceive that that's the space you would move into as opposed to, really focusing on the technical elements of the craft, if you like?
Not at all.
Really?
Honestly, it all happened very organically, that as the roles came up, I never anticipated. And like I said at the beginning, I am an introvert through and through. If you leave me in my house for a week, I will be more than happy and content to stay here. So I never in my wildest dreams did I anticipate that I'll be attending events that have hundreds of people there, that I'll be organizing these events, that I'll be speaking to people, that I'll be willingly walking up to a complete stranger and introducing myself. This was all very foreign to me initially. And sometimes it still is, the imposter syndrome is real when I attend these events. I really need to tap into whatever small percentage of extroversion that I have and just go, okay, we're here. We need to do this. You've got 2 hours, just work on this one thing and then go home and just relax for about 3 working days.
You are so amazing, so amazing. And so when you did design, and was it design and architecture? Was it your
Yes.
studies? Okay, and what do you anticipate doing as your career? Did you have any thoughts as you went through uni, or was it uni or TAFE that you
So
went?
it was a private college. It was
Private
Design
college,
Centre
okay.
Enmore. Yes,
Nice.
it was Design Centre Enmore, and I got quite fortunate with that because I ended up working with a lot of my lecturers as well.
Okay.
Yes, so one of them was Reno, who has unfortunately since then sadly passed away, but he worked at Cox Richardson, or Cox Architecture now. So I ended up securing a position there for a few months and sort of almost running it as an internship, which was a real eye-opener. And then from then on, I worked with one of my other lecturers as well, which worked out really well because it gave you a complete sense of what it is what you're to expect from the degree that you're gaining. And in all honesty, I always thought that I would be part of that world. I always wanted to, design spaces and create spaces for people, in all honesty, just building these things that are larger than life, that serve a purpose and that will stand the test of time, and that will be adaptable through times, through ages, and multiple people will be able to use them, almost like hide behind a screen for the rest of my life, happily drawing lines.
Which is what you would expect the stereotypical introvert might do, right?
Absolutely. But as life would
And nothing
have
wrong
it,
with that. Nothing wrong with that. Yeah. Yeah. Wow.
no, actually, a lot of admiration for architects and designers that are still doing it in
Absolutely.
today's day and age. It is hard to constantly have that
Mm,
creativity and
mm,
to not necessarily reinvent spaces, but
mm.
think what spaces will look like, what they will feel like, what people will need from a particular space, how they will use it and occupy it, not just now, but
Yes.
in 5, 10, 15, 20 years' time. And with so many uncertainties in life, it is hard to navigate that. But yeah, I always thought that would be my life. I would be sitting and drawing and creating these amazing spaces. But as life would have it, no, it went in a completely different direction.
Absolutely wonderful. One of the things we always share, and I've had to learn the hard way myself, is you can have the best ideas in the world, and it's absolutely okay to be an introvert and be wonderful with your technical skills, and yet your emotional intelligence matters, your ability to sell your ideas, and ultimately, being wanting to ultimately feel totally in control of your life, your ability to sell yourself, right? Is so critical, and it's about putting yourself out there, because I think just hearing from your examples, you're almost a model of it's not what you know, who you know really matters in your life, right? And your relationships
It is
do matter. Mm. And yet,
100%, 100%. Your network is your greatest asset. I mean, obviously, you yourself and the knowledge and the sort of confidence and creativity and qualities that you bring to the table, that is extremely important as well. But your network has the ability to push you much further than where you can go as an individual if you were to do it on your own. All of those relationships, everything that's built on trust and open communication. And like I said earlier, having someone that will take you under their wing and show you things from their point of view and how they do certain things, how they look at projects, how they look at business development or client relations, how they treat their clients, who eventually will turn into friends and friends will turn into clients. So you almost have to toe that line
mm,
between like what you usually start as a 9 to 5 very quickly turns into a 24/7 the moment client relationships gets thrown in the mix,
mm,
because you always have to keep these relationships alive and you have to keep the communication and the trust open. And through that, you build your network. And your
mm,
network is the one thing that will be crucial for you in continuing your career and moving into different parts, having a completely different career path, even if you want to. I mean, like I said, it was a friend of mine that called me and told me, hey, these guys are hiring. You will be great for it. I didn't go and find it on my own. And I now have a completely different career path to what I started out as. So if I didn't have that network,
mm.
perhaps I wouldn't be where I am right now, or maybe I'll only be halfway through where I am now. Um, I can't stress enough how important relationships are, not per se, almost not per se in a sense of a mentor mentee type of thing,
Mm,
but
mm,
more of finding people, not just in your industry, but in any industry that you have a lot of synergies with, that you have a middle ground, something that you can connect on and build on. Just
right.
someone that you can bounce off ideas, someone that has opposing views to you, someone that will challenge you, that will continuously ask you why. Why
Mm,
this? Why that? Why are you doing this? Have you considered this other alternative? Someone that will show you a different point of view. That is
mm.
extremely important. I think that's where a growth mindset comes into play. Because if you
Wow.
only surround yourself with the people that are identical to you, that have the same views, same personality almost, you will stay into that limited mindset. You won't move anywhere further. So your network is extremely important.
Wow.
Tell me, for an introvert, and we all know that introverts, a huge part of it is some of it is genetic. Some people are just born that way. I know that with my two wonderful boys, Jeremy and Aaron. You could tell when he was a kid, he was like the attention seeker constantly. Hey, mom, dad, what do you think of this drawing? No, and all that kind of stuff. And every day he would come home. Even today, he's 31. Dad, today is the best day of my life. Today I'm going to have the best interview of my life. He's very expressive, very out there. And Aaron was the amazing kid who, he'd be around and you didn't know he was because he'd be sitting around playing with his Lego blocks and all that. And so I think there's an element of it's in our DNA that we're just born and created that way. And yet, for many people also, I think for me in particular, introversion was something that was socially conditioning to me for a little while as I was growing up, as a result of lots of maybe receiving in of criticism, the fear of failure, the fear of rejection. And after a while, without you even questioning it, I suddenly became the part. I suddenly loved people, but I was always the last person to reach out to say hello, especially coming to Australia, being very conscious of my accent, which I have till today, being married to a wonderfully Malaysian wife as well. And yet, yeah, so much of that was conditioned into me, and yet I had to attend lots of training and find my passion as a life coach to realize that relationships building is a skill, is something I can learn if you make it important enough. And me wanting to touch lives, I certainly dedicated a lot of my life in the last 20 years to building my emotional intelligence and strengthening that muscle. But share with me, where did you get that wisdom to appreciate that relationships matter? Was it from your parents, or was it from just mentors, or you just kind of knew it in your gut?
It's a mixture from all of it, to be honest. My dad was a complete extrovert.
Oh, okay.
That was, life of the party. You will put him in a room of
Really?
100 strangers and he will
Okay.
walk out of there with 100 friends.
Really?
Yes,
What a gift.
exactly. So he was always, that sort of life of the party, typical extrovert, loved to be surrounded by people, thrived on that. Similarly, my mum as well. My mum was very much the same, would not to the same extreme as my dad, but still, constantly be surrounded by people. We always had, as a kid, I remember we always had people over at our house. At one point, I even called our house a hotel because we constantly had people over.
Right.
Neighbors would come in for coffee in the morning, relatives would come for like around lunchtime or whatever, or they would come over for dinner. We constantly had people in the house. So, like it or not, even as a kid, you almost, especially coming from an ethnic background, you're told by your parents, it's like, okay, we've got people over, you need to come and say hi, you need to introduce yourself. So from a very early age, I knew that shy or not, liking to be in the room or not, I had to push through that and present myself and actually, acknowledge someone else's presence and go and say hello. All of these different things, and translating that from personal life into professional life. I was, like I said, quite fortunate to have these people that took me under their wing and basically took me to all the events, introduced me to people where I could form my own relationships with certain clients and
Right.
take it from there, to the point where I built the confidence to go up to a complete stranger and introduce myself and sort of tell them, what's happening, what's going on, thank them for coming to our event, or if it was an event that I had organized or anything as such. So it's almost, it's translated from personal into professional life.
Yes.
But it's always been there. I've always known that I prefer sort of my own solitude and doing things on my own. But you do also understand the importance of having people there. So sometimes you push past that discomfort. That doesn't mean that you you still accept who you are and you acknowledge who you are. You acknowledge your introversion, but you know that doesn't have to define you.
Mm.
You accept it, you acknowledge it, but you know that it doesn't have to define you. And some of the most exciting things in my life have happened when I've stepped out of that comfort zone and just gone and spoken to complete strangers. Some of my lifelong friends came from that, and they always do say, every introvert needs an extrovert that sort of adopts them and takes them through life.
Mm.
But I think the point from that is, do acknowledge and accept that you
Mm.
are an introvert, but don't
Yes.
let it define you. It doesn't have to define you. It doesn't mean that you can't talk to anyone, you can't enter a room and still be confident. And even if you don't want to approach people, find someone that you know in the crowd and let them take you along and
Absolutely.
form part of conversations that they are having with different people. There's so many different avenues, so many different ways, so many different steps to build up to it. But yeah,
Mm.
just don't let the introversion define you. It doesn't have to be
Beautiful.
that way.
Absolutely. So building on what you already are, and introverts, when we're looking at getting even more fulfillment through our lives and through our career, people matter, up to regardless,
Yeah.
especially in the AI age, I think people matter even more than ever. And yet, when we're looking to elevate our presence, elevate our ability to influence and contribute more meaningfully, influence is important. And important skill of influence is listening with great empathy. And that's what introverts are naturally much better at, rather than the person who often talks too much and can be overbearing. And
Yeah.
so acknowledging the strengths of the introvert. What advice would you give to someone who kind of realizes it, and that the power of networking and building those skills and struggling to break through? What advice would you give them?
Take risks. Step out of the comfort zone. Challenges are there for us to grasp them, to embrace them, and quite frankly, just enjoy the ride. What's the worst that can happen?
Mm.
Absolutely, what is the worst that can happen? And it's not that bad. So just take risks. Honestly, they will end up being rewarding, and if they're not, at least a lesson will come from that.
Beautiful.
So you are constantly learning, you're constantly evolving. There's a quote that I absolutely adore. It's from the book The Boy, the Mole, the Fox, and the Horse.
Oh.
And they're sort of stranded in a forest, and the boy says, I can't see a way through. And then the horse says, can you see your next step? And he says,
Mm.
just take that.
Wow.
And it's like little by little you travel far. So you have to start somewhere. You have to take a risk. You have to just take one small step at a time. Small risks or big risks, just do it. Just get
Wow.
out there and do it. It's honestly, it will be very rewarding. And
Fantastic.
again, like I said, if the reward isn't worth the risk, at least there's a lesson. There's a lesson there. Nothing is too great. Yeah.
Maria, I know that you are an inspiration to so many. And suddenly, whilst the world has gone through so much progress and equality and diversity and all that stuff is so commonplace today, did you ever, in your role, especially in design and construction, in that industry, struggle being female? Did you ever face that as a challenge, as a glass ceiling that you had to punch, you clearly punch through? Very successful account sales executive in a tough industry, in an industry that's generally traditionally more, male dominated, if you like, and this applies to
Yeah.
engineering and IT and all that kind of areas as well. But did you ever find that to be a challenge or a liability?
Oh, look, you come across multiple adversities through any
Mm.
role in any
Mm.
industry. You'll come across multiple challenges. What I found with myself and my career path, um, the gender card did play a role in
Mm.
certain instances, but what
Mm.
also played an even bigger role was my age. I was
Oh.
really young when I started
Mm.
out in the industry. I was 20 when I started out in the industry. And it's very difficult to prove yourself whilst you're also learning along the way. And naturally, as a much younger person, you tend to see things from a different perspective. So it wasn't just the fact that I was a female, but it was also the fact that I was much, much younger
So
than
true.
my colleagues, than my counterparts. Um, and you almost you always look for the best opportunity as to when to voice your opinion. A lot of the times you hold back, and you almost play the devil's advocate card. You find people within the business that you gel really well with, and subsequently you almost breadcrumb an idea to them, and then they present it to someone higher up, and then it gets adopted, and you're like, I don't care that my name's not attached to this. I'm just glad that this change is happening. So you go through a lot of that, but at the end of the day, I don't see it as a negative. I also see it as character building, because it forced me to find different ways to voice my ideas, and to still get them out there, to make them happen. Um, even if they didn't come from me to the higher ups, they still made it to the higher ups, and they got implemented. So it does almost like get you to think creatively in how you can not visually, but still break through that glass ceiling if need be. And look, we will always have. I don't necessarily think the gender gap is much better, considerably much better now. And I don't think it's just gender that we need to focus on when we talk about inclusivity and pushing past through those adversities and challenges. We need people from all walks of life to talk about their ideas, to talk about their point of view. It's not just gender, it's not just age, but ethnic backgrounds, different backgrounds as well. What finance sees versus what operations sees versus what marketing sees, or what project delivery sees. Those are all different, and they all need to talk as well. And from a disability point of view as well, you need that input too. You need everyone's input. So it's definitely getting better. But I have, yes, as everyone in any industry, I've had my own adversities and my own challenges. But I've grown through that. And like I said, I definitely do see it as character development. If I could get through learning English in 6 weeks to start high school, I could get through, being a young female in construction.
Absolutely. Such a great role model of someone who doesn't let perceived liabilities limit you, and yet use that to your fullest advantage to serve. And I think your story reminds us of the universal language that trust is given to you when you are competent, you deliver results, you don't care who gets the credit. And yet, when someone gets value from you through your contributions, through all of that, especially under adversity, the trust naturally just comes, and they repay you with greater opportunities and all that. And so you're one of those that is so special, because you have, we talk about the right and the left hand. The right brain, if you like, is the emotional intelligence, the great people skills and all that. And the left hand is all about execution and competence and delivering results. And you have both, which is so extraordinary. People trust you because you say yes to stuff that other people would say no to, out of the sincere intent and purpose to grow, to serve, to honor the people who believe in you. And secondly, you deliver, you work hard, you have that amazing work ethic, and to deliver the results. I know you mentioned about taking on a sales role and doubling the profits, and results do matter, ultimately, for someone to ultimately give you that trust.
But once you do that, I think it's a universal language, right? People gravitate and trust those who deliver results for them and are just good with people, just good and caring in their nature and character, as you say. You have their back at all times, and just by the way you have served so much of your life, that's what makes you stand out. Thank you for sharing that. I know many people will benefit from that inspiration to turn what others perceive as a limitation into actually an opportunity, and in the process of it become even more of an inspiration. Like to tap into another thing that always intrigued me. You say that you're able to retire at 30. Clearly, that would also have been possible through, making sure that the financial side of things are looked after, and you can have an income when you've retired and all that kind of stuff. If you wouldn't mind sharing, how was that possible? Because I remember you sharing with me many years ago over a coffee chat. Hey, Dom, I bought my property and da 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 in this place, and it's almost double in value. And there was like, man, especially living in a place like Sydney where affordability is so challenging, and especially people in their 20s who are just struggling to get out, and they're like complaining about the government not doing enough, and this is a problem, and our problems will be the millennials. Our problems are so much greater than what the baby boomers ever had. You had it easy at your time and all that. Tell us a little bit about, if you don't mind sharing about your journey there.
No, don't mind that at all. I think, look, I think anyone from an ethnic background would be able to relate to what I'm about to say next. That being a child of ethnic parents, that is the first thing that is drummed into you from a very early age, that you have to buy a house. Doesn't matter how, you have to buy a house. And obviously when, you've heard it so many times, you have to buy a house, and what are you doing with your life? And, like you're 23, you're 24, you need to buy a house. Why are you waiting? You get to the point where you're like, okay, I must have to do this now. And look at the best way that you can achieve this. So I was quite fortunate. I think it was all a domino effect. And I was very fortunate in how things happened for me personally, where I had the opportunity to be given these amazing roles to begin with in my professional life, and almost use each one as a stepping stone. And each one came with its own benefits, and obviously, pay rise and all these various different things, which allowed me to save quite a bit of money on the side. And then when the opportunity presented itself and I found the perfect, house and land package, I was like, okay, this must be it. I now have to, fulfill every ethnic parent's dream.
You're gonna tick that box. You're gonna tick that box. Get this monkey off my back.
Yes, and honestly, it almost is like a checklist of a life that you have to live, almost, where you go to school, you get a degree, you build a career, you buy property, and it's always like tick, 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 tick. You're going through life and ticking all these imaginary boxes that your family has as a vision for you, because they truly do want you to do well in life. And I guess I was fortunate as well to have the support of my family. I would never ask them for anything, but just knowing that they are there, and if I ever need help, that they can help me. That's been phenomenal as well. But yeah, like I said, I was fortunate to have these roles where, I could negotiate a really good salary package, and subsequently allow myself to save and be quite conscious of my finances and how I do all of that. I mean, my mum comes from an economics background, so I guess numbers have been drilled into me from a very young age as well.
Well done, Mum. Great job.
I know.
Mum, if you're watching, you rock.
No, she's a superwoman. Honestly, if I'm ever half the woman that she is, I will be very happy with that.
Oh, I can't wait to meet her.
But
Yeah.
yeah, sort of the perfect opportunity of a house and land package came around, and it was relatively close to where the family home was. So I went, I looked at it. Um, the real estate agent showed it to me, and I remember asking, I'm like, okay, so what do you need from me
Mm.
to secure this? He was like, oh, I only need $2,000 to secure it because it's only a house and land package. So then once we register the land, then you have to pay the deposit for the land. And I have never put down money quicker.
Boom, $2,000.
I
Yeah.
just I just pulled out my card and I went, here. I'm like, all you need is 2 grand from me right now. Not a problem. Here it is.
Oh my
Um,
goodness.
so yeah, it was interesting. And I guess again, like everything worked out in a really fortunate way. I bought my house and land package in towards the end of 2016. So then by the time the land got registered the following year in July, by the time I started building in December of 2017 and moved in August of 2018, the value of what I had bought had significantly increased. So I ended up with this really good equity. Um, and I received the key and I already had equity on this house. So I guess like everything worked out really, really well. If I
Mm.
was to do it again, especially in today's market, it absolutely would not happen like that. But yeah, I've just been extremely fortunate, I guess, but also always quite conscious about
Mm.
finances and what I should be spending, what I should be saving, and almost, what to treat as my zero,
Yes.
almost like not waiting for my account to get to zero, but pick a number that I would
Yes.
treat as a zero.
Mm.
Um, and every time I started to get close to that number, I was like, no, 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 no. This is not good. Like, this is time to start saving again. Um, and I guess because of all of that, I I I had the freedom and the ability to get to, like I said, a month before turning 30 and go, no, you know what? I need some time to myself, time to retire, time to, slow down and do things differently.
Mm.
And I'm very fortunate for that.
Yeah.
Not everyone has that opportunity. But
Mm.
the fact that I've had it and that I can speak about it now,
Wow.
really, I'm very extremely grateful for it.
Great.
Wouldn't be able to do it in today's day and age. Honestly, 2016 was a different time.
Tell me, if you had to advise someone who was in sales, someone who's maybe more introverted, what's the secret to
Yeah.
succeeding in sales?
Look, there is no secret recipe. There's no secret sauce that will make anyone a great salesman. Obviously, there's certain skills that you can build upon that will help you with it. I've found with myself what has helped me is, well, one, having a vision, recognize that the detail matters, but
Mm.
don't lose sight of the big picture.
Okay.
So focus on the big picture. Be resilient because you're not always going to get the sale.
Mm.
You're going to get no more than you'll get yes. And you'll need to learn to take that on board, take any lessons learned, ask for feedback, and use it to improve.
And
So
how do you do that? How
definitely,
do you do that? How do you do that, Maria? Because one of the key things when we train sales professionals, account management and all that, one of the key things is that this massive fear of rejection, right? And every time they do get that no, how do you personally deal with it? Is it self-talk? Is it just staying positive? Or what do you do personally?
but for me personally, is trying to remove the emotion from it to
Okay.
begin with, because if it's a rejection, don't take it personally. It's not a rejection for you as a person. They're
Mm.
not rejecting you.
Mm.
So this is why I always make sure to ask for feedback and
Okay.
get any lessons learned from that process, because I really want to understand where the no came from. What was it in the proposal that we put together, that we put forward to them? What was
Right.
it that they didn't like?
Yes.
And then improve on that. So don't take, like, rejection is hard, it's bad. But
Mm.
when you remove the emotion from it, when you realize that
Mm.
that no is not directed towards you as a person, it's not something that you did wrong,
Mm.
ask the reason why. Remove yourself, like, remove the emotion from it. Don't take it personally. It's hard, it is, but don't take it personally. Just ask the reason why. Sit down,
Mm.
have an open conversation, communicate. Communication is pretty much the key to everything. But once you find out the reason as to why that no came to be,
Mm.
look at ways to improve it for your next proposal.
Wow.
Learn from that, adapt
Brilliant.
from it, and take it forward. So rejections are almost a blessing in disguise, because if you keep getting yes, yes, yes all the time, you start to think you're invincible, you're perfect, you don't need to change anything, you don't need to grow, you don't need to adapt anymore, everything is wonderful.
Excellent.
But as we know, like, nothing is perfect, nothing is 100%, and we're
Mm.
constantly growing and learning as life goes on. So don't
Mm.
take that rejection personally.
Yes.
Ask the reason why, and then evaluate, workshop that with your team, and then make sure that you've improved on it for your next
Wow.
proposal. If you get a no again, ask the reason why. Like, what was it that we did wrong? What would you have preferred to see? What did the winning team have that we didn't? What was the decider, and all these different things. So a rejection is never personal. So I've learned to eliminate the emotion from it, and just ask the question, ask
Excellent.
why.
You also mentioned never lose sight of the big picture. What's the big picture for you when you go into a sales opportunity? What's the big picture? Define that.
Well, basically, every time I go into any sales opportunity, it's about solving a problem that person
Mm.
has, or that company has, or that business has. It stops being about what services I offer. It starts being as, tell me what you need. Tell me the
Mm.
problem, tell me the pain points, and I will look at options or solutions in how to fix that for you. And if I
Oh.
can't fix it, then, I can go back to my team and say, hey, this is what I got presented with today. We don't have anything that can help them right now, but how about let's look at that market and see what we can do, if there's anything that we can do. So it's always, like you said, it's transactional. You look at their problem and you provide a solution for it. You don't just talk about what solutions you have without knowing what
Mm.
their problem is, because that becomes redundant. You're just offering a product and there's no benefit to anyone. So it's all about active listening, and having that emotional intelligence to sit there and listen to someone's problem, but not just listen, understand it,
Mm.
and figure out a way of, can I help them? How can I help them? Does the service that I offer actually suit this client? Because it's
Wow.
not just about, like, yes, every sale matters, but you don't just want the initial sale. You want that customer to remain. You want that customer to stay with you, to form this symbiotic relationship where,
Mm.
it becomes a two-way street. You help each other throughout life, you grow through your careers. You want that. You don't just want quick sales. You
Mm.
don't just want to burn through relationships as well. So it's all about, hear out the problem, listen to what that customer needs, and then go, okay, these are the solutions that I have that would work for you. This is what we can do. This is how we can take it forward. What do you think?
Mm. Wow. That is
And
amazing.
listen again to them. Like, once you present that solution and you explain how it will assist them, hear them out if they think that that's the right solution as well for them too.
Wonderful. That's such a special gift, such a special mindset, because for many people, it's about sales, is about hitting a number. And if I hit that number, my bonuses, my commissions, my accelerators will kick in. And yet, you're such a reminder that the big picture is about why are we here to help make a difference. And if for me to know if I can make a difference through our products, services, and solutions, I need to know what your problems are. But just that fundamental thinking of we are here to help, I think that is so classic. And thank you so much for sharing that. That's brilliant. Have you had, so three key things that we often hear are challenges from organizations, from their sales professionals. Number one, they have this fear of rejection, or when they do get rejected, they stew and marinate over that loss for hours on end and feel really bad. They take it personally. Number two, they really have this fear sometimes or reticence of asking for the business, right? Making that closing call, right? What's your tip for doing that? For someone who's struggling to close, right? The opportunity is there, you've structured the deal, you're just struggling to close. What advice would you give them?
Oh, look, if you've done every other step correctly along the way, you've listened to the problem. First you've asked what the problem is and what their pain points are. You've listened to it, you've understood it. If you have a solution, you've presented that solution. You've asked them what they think about it. You've had a conversation back and forth about how you will be resolving their problem. There is no fear. You've done all the hard work. You've literally done all the hard work up until then. And then the next question is like, okay, so these are the next steps we propose. And list out what the next steps are. And then ask them, you're like, okay, when would you like to proceed? It's as simple as that, because you've done all the hard work up until then. That question of asking for the sale, it shouldn't even be a question, because if you've done everything correctly up until then, you shouldn't even have to ask for it. The customer themselves will be the one that goes like, okay, let's proceed. How do we proceed with this? So it's not, it's making sure you get everything in order up until you get to the sale question. The sale question shouldn't even be a question. It should just be, all right, these are the next steps.
Yes, beautiful. So you're focusing on the process, making sure you're very clear about the outcomes, what does success look like for the client, crafting a solution that will meet with the client's outcomes firstly, and then within the constraints of budget and time and all that. And then if you have done that right, then you can't help if you don't ask, are we ready? Or what's the next step to take this to closure, right? You can't help without that solution. So
absolutely.
Man, you are so awesome. That's tremendous. So key thing about the sales process also is, have you ever had a sense that the opportunity was there, the money was good, but you had to say no for a client because it just didn't feel right? Have you ever had to do that?
Yes. And
what would make you, what sort of situations would prompt you to say no, even though it's super tempting to say, okay, this will help me with my target?
Look, it's about looking past, your target. I know we all have targets and the aim is to hit them, but I'd rather hit them truly than just hit them for the sake of hitting them. And this happened recently. I was sitting down with a client talking about their corporate travel, which is what I do now. And they were explaining to me what they're doing at the moment and the service that they're getting and everything. They weren't necessarily looking for a new provider, but they wanted to benchmark and make sure that they're getting the best out there. And from what they explained to me, it's difficult to say it, but sometimes you have to. And you go like, you're already getting a good deal. Like, I can't give you anything further, anything better. You're already doing great. So there's no point in going through the pain of change just to go with a new provider to receive the same service. And as painful as it is to say that, because they would have been a phenomenal client, And we
Mm,
did get on really well, but that pain of changing them over to us as a provider would have been worse than them staying with their client, like current providers. So you do go through those phases, but also sometimes, you do go through a phase and a project or a customer where they'll explain everything to you, but you just have a gut feeling that this will not work out positively for both of us.
mm,
Even if I can provide you a solution, I just
mm,
know that it won't work out well. And even in
mm,
those instances, you have to trust your gut feeling because there's a reason why it's there. If it's not a hell yes, it's a no.
mm.
A
Wow.
maybe is a no.
Wow.
If it's not a hell yes, it's a no. Um, and trust that and always just keep digging for more
Ah,
information. Ask a lot of questions. Always ask a lot of questions. Get a lot of information out, um, to make sure, because you really do want to make sure that that customer sticks. You really want to make sure that that becomes a long-term customer. It's not just a one-off. And you don't want them to just be around for, a couple of weeks or even a month or 2 months or even 6 months. You do want that relationship to continue. And if you don't feel that, it's
wow.
it's it's not worth it. Or even if they're just chasing, I know a lot of projects and a lot of sales that happen now are very bottom dollar, bottom
Mm,
line driven.
yes.
Um, and you can't help it. Cost is cost at the end of the day. Everyone needs profit, everyone needs revenue, everyone needs to be conscious of how they spend. But it also comes down to understanding the product that you offer. If you know
Mm,
that you're not the cheapest in the market, um, but you offer service, and if your customer can't see that, don't force it.
mm,
Don't
mm.
force it. So then, that's when you feel that internal, I don't think this will work. So
Excellent.
you can either try and explain it and get them to see what it is, but if they're chasing cost efficiency, but you know that you're not the cheapest in the market and you can't offer them that, it's best to be honest and upfront.
Mm,
To be quite frank, I've had that where I've been upfront and honest, and I've said, look, we can't help you because we're not the most cost efficient. And a couple of weeks after, he came back and he said, you know what? I appreciate what you said. I'll come on board. I went, oh, are you sure?
wow.
So like I reiterated again. I'm like, it's all about the service. It's all this, 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 this. He's like, yeah, I'm aware. I'm like, we're not the cheapest. He's like, yeah, I'm aware. I'm like, oh, good. But I just wanted to state that one more time.
So people do buy with for intangible reasons as well. It's not about dollars and cents, for all the organizations out there that are selling products and some of their staff are thinking, oh, we're always too expensive. That's why we're not selling enough. All those things about trust, the sense that you have my back, that this is a relationship that we're forming, a partnership. I think all those things are coming out, and you seem to be such a natural at that, and living true to to your motto, which I know is true, which is at the end of every night, be able to look in the mirror in the eye, look yourself in the mirror and say, have I done right today? And that's the opinion that matters really the most at the end of every day and at the end of your wonderful career. And I just want you to know that, for me, you'll always be, she led with amazing passion and love and energy and yet integrity, which is such a
Thank
great
you.
thing. Maria, it feels like I could go on forever. There's so much of you and your life, that extraordinary life that I'd love to unpack. And yet I'm mindful of the time and just grateful for the amazing giving nature that you are. I know that many of our audience here today will take great inspiration for your motto about just take risks, give life a go, and always seek to come from a place of a great integrity and the heart to serve and building on your relationships and yeah, just being extraordinary. I want to thank you for your time, your energy, your passion, Any last words you'd love to leave for our wonderful audience? I just want to also plant the seeds and trust that you're already planning your own podcast or your book. I can imagine already Beyond the Blueprint, something like that would be an amazing title.
Yeah.
And there's so much that the people can learn from you and benefit from. But any final words? Any final words of wisdom to our wonderful audience there on how to live their best life?
Oh, look, I don't know if they're words of wisdom, but it's, embrace adaptability, embrace change, do take those risks, and, live life to the fullest. Don't get so caught up in the career, in the titles, and forget how to live life. I love the fact that I come from a European background, and I'm constantly reminded by my family about this. It's like, you need to work to live, not live to work.
Wow.
So,
Thank you.
that's sort of the last parting words of wisdom that I'll leave. But yeah, definitely, like, be adaptable, take risks, but also stop and smell the roses. Life is more about than just work and career. It's about all the little adventures that come along the way. So embrace it all. Say yes to well, not everything, but almost everything. Say
you,
yes
Marija.
to challenges.
You've
You're
been an
welcome. Thanks,
absolute
Dom.
inspiration. On behalf of our wonderful audience, thank you so much. I know they'll reach out to contact you, and if they would love to reach out to stay in touch with you and pick your brain even more, what's the best way, Marija?
Oh, they can follow the URL to my LinkedIn. Feel free to send me any messages or anything as such. That would probably be the best way.
Absolutely. We'll certainly have all of those details in the show notes. Thank you once again. Really appreciate you knowing that you'll go out there and live each and every day and make it extraordinary. Thank you.
Thank you.